All right. Well, welcome again to our Best Practices Masterclass for May. This is our third masterclass so far, and we've just had a really great response to it. So thanks for being part of it. I'm expecting that we'll have about 20, 25 people on the call today, and then a number of folks asked for the recording. So we always send out the recording afterwards. And really our intent through this masterclass is to connect Coachmetrix subscribers, because I know that when our community is connected, we're going to have a more powerful impact on the world, and we'll have a bigger impact on being able to build our practices, our coaching businesses together through the strength of this community. So that's really our intent. We do have a few folks that are joining us today as some guests. So welcome to our guests as well, and I hope that you consider joining our Coachmetrix community at some point in the near future. So our intent, again, is to build community, share ideas, share insights, get a sense of what's happening in the marketplace. And for each of these master classes, I will tee up some content to give you a sense of how you might be able to employ Coachmetrix. But I want these master classes, really, I think the opportunity is for these master classes to go beyond Coachmetrix and to talk about coaching and our practices and our businesses in general. For today, we're going to focus the content portion on onboarding new clients, and especially as many of us are moving our coaching practices into a virtual world, some of these onboarding techniques can really help in that matter. I'm going to go off of video for now, but I'll keep showing my screen. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll do a quick check-in. I think there's some power in hearing from a few folks. We've got people from all around the globe that will be on this call today and that are part of our community. What are you noticing out with your clients and in the workplace? And given this environment, this global pandemic space that we're in right now, it might be nice to hear what you're hearing and seeing. I'll dive into the content with some tips around onboarding new clients in a virtual environment. And as you know from past masterclasses, after each tip, I'll open it up for your input. How do you onboard people, whether it's through Coachmetrix or otherwise, so that we're getting your best practices as well, and we can share across our community. And then we'll end today with a conversation of how are you pivoting your business, given some of the changes that we've all experienced in some way, shape, or form in the last 6 to 9 weeks. What are you doing? How are you responding? How are you reacting? So that's where we're headed into our conversation today. Quick check-in. Number one, what are you noticing and how are you responding? For me, I've personally noticed that, when we conducted this session 30 days ago, so that was, I think, around April 3rd, give or take, April 6th, the sentiment was a lot different than it is today. And I'm really sort of amazed by how much of a difference 30 days can make in people's thinking, their attitudes, their psychology. What are you noticing? So, and just as a point of etiquette, stay on mute, and then we love your input, then take yourself off of mute. So what are you noticing and how are you responding? Since we've got so many people on the call today, just think in terms of a headline. I'd love to hear from a few of you. What are you noticing? How are you responding? Who wants to go first?
Hi.
Hi, Magali. Thank you. Yeah, tell us what you're noticing and how are you responding?
Yeah, I'm in contact with a lot of different coaches. For coaches, I see a lot of coaches, especially the one who are very dependent on face-to-face. They're, the one who didn't have a website or didn't have an online strategy, are ready to to go in the world.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to give support to whoever in what I can. But also myself, I am, I wanted to relaunch my new niche and like already like a year and a half ago, but I became pregnant and I had a baby and my brain was not really like there. So finally, I took the time and I'm going to relaunch my niche and website in a month. No,
Awesome.
less than a month. So it's really, finally, I'm really welcoming this time.
Wonderful.
No time, like, I
Yes.
have my clients, but with clients, I think like they're still in contact, but like people take longer to make decisions. So there's no point in pushing, and it's a great way, especially if you're doing executive coaching, to build trust, because when things will pick up again, I have a feeling that, you're the one who is checking with people, talking to people, making sure that
Very good
everything
point.
goes well, or getting to know them without being pushy. Because every week I receive like a LinkedIn,
Yes.
LinkedIn consultant saying, "Hey, you can get more leads. You can get more leads." Every week, and I think a lot of people are like in desperate mode, especially this LinkedIn consultant, and they push, and it's not the right time to do that. It's really time to check feelings. So that's what
Yeah.
I know.
Excellent.
Maybe
Great.
you have a different
Yeah.
insight. People
No,
have.
very, very similar. Thank you for that, Magali. So one, checking in with clients, staying in touch with them, making sure they know that you're there, but not pushing is part of what I'm hearing you say right now. And also spending time working on the business. I think there's a lot of coaches and businesses in general right now that are retracting. Right, they're in defense mode, and in some ways we have to be there, but in other ways we can also be on offense, meaning what are some ways that we can work on the business, because so much of our time is spent in the business throughout the year. So this forced shutdown to some extent may help us do that. Love to hear from a couple of other folks. What are you noticing with either your clients or in the marketplace, and maybe how are you shifting? Who else has some thoughts, inputs?
Sal, this is Al Ritter. Can you hear me?
Sure can, Al.
Good. How you doing, Sal?
Good. Nice to see you and hear you.
One of the things I'm noticing, just following up on what Magali said, is that most of the time when I'm in contact with people in normal circumstances, it's always with the background conversation is how can I talk to him about about what I do, and see if they get referrals or even get clients from the conversation. But what I've done in the last 3 or 4 weeks is contacted about 100 people, past clients, current clients, just friends, relatives, all sorts of people, and just to say hello and see how you're doing, which I think is appropriate now. I think it is. You guys tell me if you feel differently. And one of the reasons I do that, I look back at my past clients, and many of them came from unlikely sources. It was people that I knew in college, or people that I knew through other associations that became my best clients. So I think this whole idea of creating and maintaining relationships with people without so much selling is probably just the best thing to do anyway. And that's what I've been doing, contacting a lot of people.
Yeah, thanks, Alan. I think that's really insightful. And part of some of the conversations that I've had with clients, the whole idea of mental health and loss and grief is coming up more and more. Right. And what I also know is that the leaders that we serve, the executives, the human resource professionals, whoever our clients are, they're not immune to the same issues. So I think, and challenges and loss. And so, Al, I think the idea of just reaching out, checking in to see how people are doing in some ways can be really beneficial for them and their own mental well-being.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Thanks, Al. Let's maybe hear from one other person. What are you noticing out there in the marketplace with clients, and how are you responding?
Good morning, Sal. This is Bo Carrington.
Hey, Bo. Good morning.
It's interesting because all of us, I've got a group of coaches that work with me, and every one of us at the outset of this kind of switched modes in terms of how we were approaching folks. We moved into a how can we help capacity.
Yeah.
Whether it was previous clients, current clients, or potential future ones. And what I saw happen, because we were communicating information, trying to, again, be helpful, what I saw happening was more engagement from the other folks.
Yes.
Where they're reaching out, going, hey, can you help with this? And I think part of it is just the fact that somebody cared enough to say, are you okay? Goes back to Al's point and your point about mental health. Is just making sure that that folks understand that we're all going through it, And, sometimes the best thing you can do is talk about it. And it's really been interesting to watch it happen.
Yeah. And what's the biggest result, or let's say outcome, that you've noticed from that shift in movement to how can we help?
I've picked up 3 new clients in the last month.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I mean, business hasn't slowed down.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, I've been able to, I say corner, I've been able to capture my coaching clients a lot easier in terms of setting time up with them because they have time now.
Yeah, that's great. Really good to hear. Yeah, so there's this mindset shift here to how can we help? And if we're in that place of service, gratitude, helping others, who knows what comes from that? But I think that's really in line with what Magali and Al were saying as well. I'm going to just maybe ask for one other person's point of view. What are you noticing? What are you seeing either in the market or with clients or with how you're adjusting at this point in time? This is, I think, extremely helpful. Who wants to go next? Porfirio?
Hi, Sal. Yeah, I'm Porfirio Gomez from Mexico. How are you doing?
Good. Nice to hear your voice again, Porfirio.
Nice to meet you. Well, my English is not very well, so I will try to express myself.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Thank you. Well, I was working in Puerto Rico. I was supporting a consulting firm with continuous improvement projects, and these continuous improvement projects has human development business, no, or human development side. So what we are looking, or what we see watching in the market is that we lost 70% of our clients. I mean, 70% of our clients, they asked to stop the project. So we only have the 30%, and we are working in a very slow down way. I mean, it's very difficult to reach, actually with the clients that we were working now, it's very difficult to reach through virtual. I mean, they are very focused on how to respond to the crisis. You're trying to follow through. But I've seen that. But on the other side, I've been talking with peers in the human development industry and training and development. And they are watching, in the other side, an increase in online and virtual business, no?
Yeah.
I was talking with an executive account of LinkedIn Learning, and he was telling me about this 30% of increase in this virtual learning project. So I mean, it's a mix, no? I mean, maybe 70% of the clients are dropping off their projects, but if you find out how to catch some of these opportunities, you can stay alive, no? I mean,
yeah, excellent. Thank you. That's really helpful to hear that point of view too. And it is a mix. We've seen that with many coaching businesses. Some are thriving and others are really struggling because of maybe industries clients are in, budget cuts. I know that a number of clients that we're working with have already been through layoffs or furloughs. One client of ours is in the travel business, and their business is down 87%. And so there's just going to be an impact. Ideally, I think our clients are better off with us than without us, because we can really help them move through this crisis and through this pandemic, and help them see things from a different point of view. So thanks for that. I think we're going to dedicate our June session entirely on a conversation like this, and with a frame of how do we emerge from this and how do we help our clients emerge from this. So stay tuned for that. I just wanted to do a quick check-in just to get a sense of what's happening. On my side, recently, this past week, 3 or 4 different clients have told us there's been a sense of settling in is probably the best way to describe it, meaning our clients many of them have been through furloughs or layoffs. and they're starting to see that things aren't worst case scenario right now. So that seems really good news from my end. I think we're not through this yet, obviously, but there is a sense of settling in that I've noticed from several different clients that that is giving them hope, and I think maybe giving me some hope around where we are in the middle of this thing. So I think the mindset we all have to have is around service, around gratitude, and also around valuing our own service and what we provide, to say our clients are better off without us, and how can we help them through this. So thanks for all of those responses. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. We're going to get into the topic of the day, which is really around how do you onboard your clients. And I'll show you some techniques in Coachmetrix. As Porfirio just said, you know, part of the shift that many folks have to make right now is moving their practice online into the virtual environment. Coachmetrix is a platform that can help you do that. So that's the great news, because you already have the platform and you can already say that you've been doing this for quite some time. But I'll show you a few Coachmetrix related techniques for onboarding people in a virtual environment. And then after each tip, I also want to hear from you. What are you doing either inside of Coachmetrix or even outside of Coachmetrix? Again, I want this conversation to be, I think the opportunity is for this conversation to be broader than just Coachmetrix. So for folks that are guests on this masterclass, little history about Coachmetrix. You know, what we found in our leadership development work years ago is that when action plans were paper-based, they either didn't get done or they didn't get done to the extent of driving behavioral change. And then we started noticing, especially with our more progressive high-tech clients, that they were showing up for workshops and programs without pens. And just metaphorically, it was really giving us the signal to say, hey, we can see where this market's going. People are moving away from just traditional learning only. And then we were constantly asked, hey, how do you know if people are actually changing as a result of your programs? And those three things really is what drove, or the things that drove us to build Coachmetrix. This is a platform that we built to use with our coaching clients. And we found that we had something really good. Our clients were responding very strongly to it. And so we re-engineered the whole system several years ago and built Coachmetrix. And that's what this platform is. It's a platform made by coaches, made for coaches. So today's topic is really about onboarding new clients in a virtual world. And I'm going to show you a few things. These are some things that we do and that we've learned along the way from other coaches that use Coachmetrix as well. And the first tip around onboarding clients is in Coachmetrix, you can preload content into your clients, your participants' project before they actually access their project. So for folks that are new to Coachmetrix, there's three different players inside of Coachmetrix. There's the coach, there's the participant, who's really the coachee, and then there's the supporter, a stakeholder who provides ongoing feedback and is engaged in that participant's development. So here are the steps to do this, and I'm going to show you how to do this in Coachmetrix. Number one, you can add your participant into Coachmetrix without sending them an invitation. It's sort of a little known feature that you may or may not be aware about. And then you can go into that participant's account and you can add content. So for example, I'll show you in the next tip how to add a coaching welcome kit as an example. And then number three, then you can go back to the participant's tile and send out an invitation. So I'm going to jump over to Coachmetrix and show you how we do this. And I just want to, as I'm navigating Zoom here, just want to make sure I'm showing you the right screen. All right, so if I'm inside of Coachmetrix and I have a project is already established, let's say, and I want to add a new participant, I'm just going to make up a name here. And there's, by the way, if any of you have an account that is, we use Google's business apps for business. If you've got a Google-based account, you can add onto your email address, sort of some additional characters, and it will appear to the system that you've got an additional email address. So this is great for testing, or if you want to add participants, test participants into an account. But we're just going to add this participant test. Oh, if you notice at the bottom of that screen, sorry, I clicked through that too quickly. There was a little pop-up that said, include a welcome message for participants. So if I don't click that box, that participant will not know that they've been added to Coachmetrix. So what that allows me to do is to see that participant in the system, and then to preload some content into their account, so that when I ultimately invite them into Coachmetrix, they've got some preloaded content. So for example, I'm going to head over to the resources tab. And by the way, I don't know if you've noticed this, but we just added the ability to view your resources and your project in list view. So before you could view only in tile view only, we just added the feature to go to list view. It just makes it a little bit easier to sort on title when you created it, and other aspects of just making that view easier. So I might send my new participant a welcome kit. This is a resource that we've built inside of Coachmetrix. So I'm going to take that welcome kit. I'm going to share it with my participant, test 37, whoever that is. And then when I go back into there, when I go into that participant's account, you'll see that that resource is already there. So at that point in time, I've got some information that's already preloaded. So when they sign into their account, they're ready to go, as opposed to adding them to Coachmetrix and then they get a whole bunch of messages from Coachmetrix as you're sending them things. So you could upload resources, you could send them assignments, you could share a discussion, so that when they ultimately sign in, that account is preloaded. Okay, so now I want to go back to my participants account. Yeah, was there a question?
Yeah, it's Robin. Marlo sent in a question, when you create a resource, is it available to anyone being coached? So an important point there.
Yeah, great question, Marlo. When you create a resource, the resources sit in your library as a coach, and they don't go anywhere until you send that resource to any of the participants you choose. You can send them to one or two, or you can send them to all of your participants. So you can think about it as the resources, you're building a library, and then you can send those resources as needed to different clients across all of your projects. So when I go back to my participants account, I have the ability to now send them a welcome message. You'll notice there's 3 icons on the participants tile. You can delete the participant. If you have multiple coaches on your team, you can change what coach is assigned to this participant. And you can also send them an invite message if they haven't already signed into Coachmetrix, which they wouldn't have signed in because they never received the invite to begin with. So you can send that message. You can customize this if you want and send the invite. And then once that participant gets into Coachmetrix, they're going to see whatever preloaded content you have for them. All right, so that is the first quick tip on how do I onboard a client virtually, preloading some content. Reactions, questions, what are you doing, or what kind of content are you preloading with your participants?
Hey, Sal, Mary Connors has a question.
Yes,
I coach
Mary.
virtual teams. Does software accommodate teams?
Yeah, so there's two ways, Mary, in which we think about it on teams. So one of the things that you could do is you could create a project specifically for that team and add all of your team members into that project. And then each of those team members might have specific goals, coaching goals that you're coaching them around, and they can add those goals directly into Coachmetrix. You can communicate with them directly through Coachmetrix. You can send out any resources from workshops or facilitation that you're doing directly through Coachmetrix. And then, of course, measure behavioral change. So sometimes on teams, what we'll do is everybody on the team might have the same exact goals and or behaviors that we're measuring. So for example, maybe that leadership team is trying to create more alignment in their organization, or they're trying to create a culture of coaching throughout the organization. if everybody has the same set of goals, you can now start to measure those goals across every participant on that team. Mary, does that answer your question? And feel free to, okay, great, thanks. You're on mute, but if you've got more questions around that, I'm sure there are a number of other people that are coaching teams today too, so definitely jump in. That's really what we want to do.
And then Sal, Magali just was wondering, she doesn't see the welcome kit, so maybe you could touch on that a little bit.
Great, so that's tip number 2. And really the bigger tip here is to think about anytime you've got a repeatable aspect of your business, how can you create a template for that so it just becomes more easily distributed to people. So the way that one easy way to think about this is the coaching welcome kit. This is something we brought up last time, and we got a lot of questions about this after the webinar. So we'll show you what our coaching welcome kit looks like, and then we'd love to hear any of your input. So for example, with the coaching welcome kit, in our engagements, most of the time, our engagements start almost the same exact way. We have an intake session. We will typically administer a 360 or some confidential interviews at the very earliest stages of the engagement, or maybe we'll administer other profiles. In our second session, we're usually getting into things like vision, and then in our third session, we're getting into the 360 data. So for us, many of our engagements are really consistent across clients. So we created a coaching welcome kit that includes a welcome letter, and the welcome letter includes our coaching agreement. So we all know through ICF or other guidelines, having really clear agreements is an important part of the coaching process. We include our coaching agreements inside of Coachmetrix, and they're pretty much the same agreements with every client. Number 2, we have a welcome video that we created, very simple 2 or 3 minute video on how people can be successful in the coaching engagement. That's included in the welcome kit. And then we have a couple of different templates that are specifically related to the 360 process. Number 1, there's a spreadsheet that includes a template for the participant to capture their 360 raters. And then there's a sample email that they can use as a heads up email to send out to their raters so they know that a 360 assessment is coming. And then any other pre-reading or reflection questions that you want the participant to start thinking about. So that's what we think about. This is our sample coaching welcome kit. This is a screenshot from Coachmetrix. I'll show that to you right now. But there's some text, and we can customize that text. And then we attach some of the different resources to a collection. And then we've got our coaching kit. So coaching welcome kit. So let me show that to you inside of Coachmetrix now. I'll go back to our account. It's just take me a moment to bring up. And inside of Coachmetrix, in our resources, I'm going to go back to the list view just because it loads faster. If I go all the way down to collections, collections are a combination of resources. So you can use these collections for creating a welcome kit or grouping resources in a logical way that makes sense for your business. So for example, maybe you group your process improvement resources together, or maybe you create a mini course that has a video of you and a tool and some reflection questions. So our coaching welcome kit looks like this. The coaching welcome kit, all of the text at the top can be modified. So maybe my client is Mary. I'm going to save Mary and save Mary's name, and maybe I want to add a personal note. I can just add any additional text that I want. This is text that we added in when we built the collection. And then inside the collection, we've got these modules. We have the welcome to coaching video. It's a simple video. It's 2 minutes, as you can see. It's a simple video that we shot. That video sits on YouTube, or this one actually might be on Vimeo. And then you just quite literally copy and paste the link into the resource, and the video will show up. And it looks something like this. It's playing, but I don't know if you'll be able to hear me.
And I want to welcome you to coaching. with 512 Solutions Consulting Group. I'm very excited that the 512 team will be part of your journey because I know how powerful.
So it's really just a simple video that we shot and had edited and uploaded to Vimeo. We also have an overview of the coaching process. This is an infographic, by the way. This is available to you if you need it. Just let us know. We'll email it over to you. And then we also uploaded an attachment that has the details of how the coaching engagement is going to look like. Number 3, we added in the coaching agreements. And then number 4, this is the module to select and notify your raters. You can see some attached, so some information about the 360 process. That's just text. And then 2 attachments to help support the process. One is to capture the raters. The other is the heads up email. And then this leadership dashboard is a coaching tool that we use. So that's the coaching welcome kit. And then when you're ready, you just send the welcome kit to whichever leader you're coaching, and it'll load into their account.
Hey, Sal, just to confirm with everyone, Coachmetrix does not come preloaded with a welcome kit because each person's welcome kit is unique to their own practice. So there's just a discussion about that.
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, Robin, maybe we should have, we put some resources inside of Coachmetrix when you sign up for an account, just really to give you some examples, but this one's been kind of a hot topic. Maybe we should include this in there just so people can take it and modify it for their own use.
Yeah.
So that might be an idea that we can run by our development team.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Great. Really good questions. I would open it up to you all. What are you doing in terms of like providing onboarding resources to your coachees? And this could be inside or outside of Coachmetrix. It doesn't matter. What are some of the things that you want? What's some of the information you want your coachees to have immediately at the beginning of an engagement? Who's got some responses to that?
I've got a couple of articles that I typically send out that are focused on how to work with your executive coach or how to get the best out of your executive coach arrangement.
Nice.
I've also got all of my, like you, I've got all of my templates for the heads up on the 360 and everything else is loaded both for my coaches and for the coachees.
Nice.
And then most of the other stuff that I've got out there is just, they're tools that I've used over time,
Yep.
videos, Harvard Business Review articles, things like that, stuff that we may be sending out to a client or assigning to a client to read before a session.
Awesome. Yeah, any and all of that, those articles, those templates, those tools, videos, those could all be part of a welcome kit that you send. Great. Thanks, Bo. What other information are you sharing with your clients at the beginning of engagement, whether it's through Coachmetrix or not? It might be interesting to hear how people are using information to help onboard their coachees. Yes, go ahead, Magali.
Yeah. Basically what I do is they receive I use Acuity scheduling, and with Acuity scheduling, I have a Zapier, so they receive automatically the welcome email. So it's a bit more technical, but now I'm thinking to switching everything on Coachmetrix, so they only have one email. But I send them the ICF code of ethics, especially with clients I work with who are like, the company, pay for that. So I make sure that the confidentiality is there. But because sometimes I think like I'm overwhelming with different emails. You mentioned, I think it's a really great idea to just have a coaching agreement within Coachmetrix, but I don't know, they cannot sign within Coachmetrix. So I'm really wondering, what's up? So I don't know how binding it could be, especially when a client says, hey, it's your fault when we don't give advice, so this kind of things, so right. But the only thing that I'm really concerned.
Yeah, so there's a couple things. One, you could easily add those ICF code of ethics here. Imagine that as another module within your welcome kit. You could have I know that for me with my coach, every time I want to schedule a session with her, I have to search my inbox to find her Acuity scheduling link every single time. And honestly, it's a pain in the ass. And so, but what if you just had a resource that was just Acuity link scheduling? And that's all. So I would always know as a coachee to go in here and just go right back to my welcome kit in Coachmetrix, click on the dashboard that has the Acuity link and just click on the link and schedule my coaching session. So that might be one way. And the other thing is, instead of sending people 6 emails with your welcome kit and the roadmap and agreements, and everything happens through one message in Coachmetrix, and people can come back to this one central place. In terms of signature, one quick thought, I don't know if this solves your problem or not, but if you do have a resource that is that you want signed, perhaps you include the text here along with a PDF document that they can download, sign, and then they can re-upload it into that same resource in Coachmetrix. That might be one idea.
Yeah, I have to think about it.
Yeah, great. Awesome.
But I don't know if it's necessary to have a signature, if it's for you important, because if we send them a coaching proposal and they sign it, I think that will be enough.
Yeah. Yeah. Our proposals are signed, our agreements aren't, but I know coaches have different methodologies and philosophies. I'm going to go on to the third tip, and then we can continue this same conversation, but I think really this next tip is in line with the same note. And the tip is, as you're thinking about templatizing your businesses, if you will, the other way you can templatize your business is by creating reusable assignments. So you might remember there's an assignments feature in Coachmetrix. These are our onboarding assignment tasks. They're almost the same exact tasks that we ask our clients to do after that first coaching session. So we just created some tasks inside of Coachmetrix. Identify your 360s, watch the welcome video, review the coaching agreements, begin working on your vision reflection document. And so if I show that to you quickly inside of Coachmetrix, you might remember that there's an assignments tab over here on the left-hand side of the screen. And inside that assignments tab, once you create a set of assignments, those assignments remain inside of this library so that you can use them and share them with any participant across any project. So if I go back to the project that I just created with, let's see, where did I put him? Or her, test 37, I can create that set of assignments, assign a date, and then when I go back into that person's account, that person will have a set of onboarding assignments. And then as those assignments get completed, they can check them off. And it just always helps for us to create clarity. And that's ultimately what we're trying to do. As people are busier than ever, how can we create clarity for them? So let me pause for just a minute. Continuing our conversation from before, what other information are you sharing with your clients when you're onboarding them, and or any questions about anything we've talked about so far?
Hey, Sal, it looks like Jeffrey Cohen had raised his hand.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
That was in error. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was fiddling with it.
No problem. Well, listen, if you even twitch on this masterclass, we're going to call on you. So any other questions, or how are you sharing information at the beginning of your coaching engagements?
Hey, Sal, this is Frank. Hi.
Hey, Frank.
So whenever I start an engagement with clients, I'll have them do a DISC assessment.
Nice.
And I've never really completely figured out how to weave in the DISC to the to Coachmetrix. Mm-hmm. And so it's more of a kind of a question than a comment or observation. But maybe an assignment could be to take the assessment, which is sent by email. I set that up. I don't know. I'm kind of open to ideas on that, but I'd love to certainly have that posted up into the platform. That's easy enough to do.
Yeah.
And I love the assignments capabilities. I've seen it there for a very long time. I've never used it, but just today I had a client who followed through on something that we talked about 2 weeks ago. And I only learned that today because he mentioned it in passing. And I thought, I'm missing a trick here. Maybe I should try to do something. And then now here you are talking about assignments. So
Yeah.
the timing of this is actually quite good.
But part of where we ultimately want the assignments feature to go is into some reporting. So that ultimately you can report not just on pulse feedback, but maybe what people have done. And depending on the level of coaching or coachee that you're working with, that may or may not be applicable. But there's a bigger picture for the assignments feature, one, to help create clarity. But number two, at some point in time, we do see that having a reporting function tied to it. In terms of disk, are you using Everything Disk Workplace, or what disk profile are you using?
It depends on the client. It could be Everything Disk. It could be a Work of Leaders. It could be
great.
Sales Disk. I mean, it's
excellent.
Half dozen.
Yeah. So depending on how you're using disk, you can do a couple things. One, you can certainly add it to the assignments. Number two, you can upload the disk profile through a discussion. We do that with any assessment that we're using. So people, again, can always go to one portal to find it. What we often find with disk and other profiles that get emailed to people automatically is inevitably they will ask us, where do I find my disk profile? Now they don't have to ask us that anymore because it's inside of Coachmetrix as a discussion. If you're using a tool like Work of Leaders, where in Work of Leaders there are at the end of that, there are 3 suggestions for improvement. Those suggestions for improvement could get moved into that person's action plan. And then you could start measuring ongoing behaviors. Same with the 363 for leaders and for folks that are using other assessments, whether it's personality style or 360 or multi-rater. You can think about somehow connecting the data from the assessment into an action plan that then gets measured ongoing through Coachmetrix. Is that helpful, Frank? All right, tip number 3. And can you see my screen again, Robin? Tip number 3, schedule an onboarding nurture sequence. So you might remember inside of the discussions feature, you have the ability to build preset templates. And then when you're creating a discussion, you can select from those preset templates, and then you can schedule that discussion to go out at some later date. So imagine if you had 3 nurturing emails that you could send out to your clients at the very earliest stage of their engagement. You could build a template for that. I'll show you where that feature is inside of Coachmetrix. There's this feature called templates. And so again, anytime there's something repeatable in your coaching engagement, I don't like to type the same email twice. And that's just sort of how my mind thinks. So as an example, a coaching session, reminder, and prep, I have a template that's built. So when I go to create a discussion, it automatically pre-populates this entire template, then I can just customize the client's name. But imagine building a sequence of maybe 3 emails, build them in your templates, and then when you go back to your participant's project and you go to send that participant a discussion, you can select from your templates, it'll pre-populate the email, you can modify it, and then schedule it for some later date. And then that discussion will be scheduled to go out at a later date. So if you've got 3 pre-built templates that are about onboarding and welcoming your coachee to coaching, you can create 3 different discussions, schedule them for a later date, and have a nice little nurture sequence to help in that onboarding process. Reactions, questions, you're probably doing this already just through regular email, but this will just automate that process for you. It might be a great way to send out a link to an article or a link to a video or something like that. Questions, reactions to that, and or what are you doing to nurture people through the onboarding process, not just at the first session, but maybe even over the course of the first month of coaching? All right. I'm going to go to our final tip, and then we'll open it up for some questions, comments, thoughts. And this last tip is very simply, I talked about this last time, as we're all making the shift to virtual coaching, and many people have been coaching virtually for a long time already. This might not be much of a shift for you. The first thing to think about, I think, is your messaging. And I think for us with Coachmetrix, our clients never have the option to use Coachmetrix. It's just how we coach. It's part of our coaching methodology. So what I've noticed with people that are sort of transitioning onto Coachmetrix, they will oftentimes ask their client if they want to use Coachmetrix. Whereas we assumptively go in and say, this is how we coach, and it comes with a platform, and that platform enables you to do X, Y, and Z. So with your messaging, assumptively use Coachmetrix and start using terminology like, hey, we have a platform that's designed for coaching in a virtual world. We coach leaders globally in a virtual environment. I know many of you have done that or do that already. So you're already prepared. You've already been doing this virtually for years, if not decades. You're ready to let your clients know that coaching virtually can be just as intimate and effective as it is in person. So that's my final tip for how do you onboard coaches in a virtual environment. Let's open it up for some discussion. How do you do it? Any other best practices that you want to share with the group that would be helpful for our broader community, whether it's part of Coachmetrix or not? All right, and I might just move on to the last question, sort of the last section of our agenda today, which is, we heard from some folks at the beginning of the conversation. Let's continue that conversation, meaning, how are you pivoting your business right now? Given the current conditions in the marketplace, what are some things that you're doing? What are some changes that you're making, new programs you might be offering, changes to the way you position coaching, changes to coaching programs? What's coming up for you in your environment?
Sal, Rudy had a question. Can you calendarize coaching sessions using Coachmetrix?
Mm-hmm. We don't have a calendar function inside of Coachmetrix, Rudy. Instead, we use Schedule Once. I know a lot of you use Acuity. One idea is to put your coaching link inside of a resource or inside of a discussion, so people can always access that link. Part of our philosophy around this is there are already some great scheduling tools out there, and we want to focus on what we can do best and leverage other tools that can do their thing best. So we don't have an online calendar function in Coachmetrix, but you can include a link somewhere inside of Coachmetrix so your clients can always access that. Thanks, Rudy. How are you pivoting your business today? I saw one person on the chat say they're doing some online courses. You can certainly get some of your content online. I think it's a great way to supplement your coaching. You could even offer, in our last masterclass, we talked about having different levels of coaching packages. Maybe there's an entirely online coaching package so that you can compete with companies like BetterUp. BetterUp offers sort of low end. I think it's low end. I think it's transactional commodity coaching with an app, but it's taking hold in the marketplace, especially for frontline and mid-level managers. Well, you can do the same thing. And maybe there's a different audience that you target that to. Maybe you use a team of coaches that you pay on an hourly basis. But getting that content online certainly is one avenue to pivot in today's marketplace. Who else has an idea? How are you pivoting your business in the first half here of 2020?
Sal, this is Al Witter. One of the things I'm doing is I'm contact, as I mentioned earlier, I'm contacting a lot of people, including past clients, potential clients. And one of the things I'm saying is, what does this particular business really need right now? And many of the businesses you just mentioned a minute ago need help in this furloughing and layoff and doing it effectively and well. And most people think, most people think, oh, I just got to get rid of somebody. But no, you do it with kindness, decency. You care about the person. You help them in any way you can going through that tough situation. So that's one of the things. So in other words, what I'm saying is I'm offering my help, and I'm not even talking about getting paid for it necessarily. It's my help in this very new situation most people are in relative to furloughs and layoffs, and how to do it well.
Yeah, and I think those conversations help inform maybe some new offerings. So for example, there could be some crisis coaching that you do, or there could be some communication coaching that you offer, or maybe there's a new course that you offer that's a combination of a webinar and some follow-up coaching sessions to help leaders think through these really critical discussions. I know that on our end, we created a template that we use. It's a toolkit, so then we can use that to give to our clients as something that's valuable to help them think through these conversations. So yeah, Al, I think those being in conversation with others helps inform what the business environment needs, and then might help inform where we need to be pivoting our business either temporarily or permanently. Yeah, great. I love it. Any final comments on how you're pivoting your business today to respond to the current business conditions?
Well, this is Jeff Cohen. I don't know if you can see me
Jeff?
or not.
I can't see you, Jeff, but I can hear you, which is great.
Okay. So what I had done was to send out an email to all of my past coachees and said that I know, or I assume that you're going through something, and I'd like to talk to you and just see if I can help. So let's set up an hour. 10% responded. I didn't get any business from it, and I didn't expect any business. But what I did was get an amazing intelligence. So they were not only telling me about themselves, but they were telling me about what was happening around them. And it just so happened that I was working with an individual that was literally next door to my former coachee. And I found out something about her that was extremely valuable that I will use, but not tell her where I got that information.
So,
but there was a lot of goodwill that I got out of the meetings.
Yeah, so goodwill, and we just never know where that goes, right? I'm always amazed by someone I connected with 15 years ago that then shows up my door 8 years later, or contacts us at some other point in time. So I think that goodwill goes a long way, and it also gives us some intelligence, a pulse of what's happening in the market, so we can ultimately shift and pivot our businesses. I know that now, as Magali said at the beginning of the conversation today, now is a great time to work on the business. And we don't know what the future environment is going to look like, but we have to be resilient and agile enough to be ready for what's coming in the face of this uncertainty and maybe some ambiguity. Talking to our clients certainly can help us understand the trends that are happening.
So one more thing.
Yes, please.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
thing
Jeff.
that is everyone who I talked to had been promoted in the period of time from when I finished coaching them and today, which was really made me feel good.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah, thanks, Jeff. It's really helpful. Jacqueline had said that she's considering making it known to offer some career coaching to people that are being furloughed. And and who knows where those people then end up a month, 3 months, 6 months from now, and they could be your executive coaching clients. Really helpful, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. In our next conversation, we're going to shift the focus a little bit, And I'm going to ask that you bring a challenge in your business that you're facing, and we'll do some peer coaching in this conversation. We'll also bring some tools to the table as well. But thank you for joining us for our monthly best practice conversation. This is really all about building better businesses so that we can make a bigger impact on the world. I'm Sal Sylvester. Reach out anytime if we can support you. And thanks for being part of our Coachmetrix community. Take care, everyone.
Thank you, Sal.